Morning. Welcome to Early Care Connection. I'm Izzy Greenberg. Today, we are joined by our resident panel of experts, Meryl Gay from the Connecticut Early Childhood Alliance and Ava Bermudez Zimmerman from the Child Care for Connecticut's Future campaign. Start by thanking Sandra for providing interpretation for us. And of course, a big thank you to all of you, our community, for being here and making these calls so vital and so useful to the community. A reminder to please use the chat for communication with each other, but the Q&A is much better for panelists. That can be used in either English or Spanish, and we can interpret them. And then before we get started, I just want to apologize. The Zoom reminder, the meeting reminder for this was incorrect, and it was stuck on last week's, and that was just our oversight. We didn't change it. So apologies if that confused anyone. We're not talking about the same thing as last week. We just took the weekend off, I guess. And so there it is. All right, we have a number of things to go over this morning, lots of them having to do with regulations. And we'll get started with Meryl today to kick that off about Care4Kids. Meryl, you're up. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Last week, we talked about how Care4Kids pays so much less than what it costs to run a quality program. And if you didn't get a chance to see that, the recording is posted on our YouTube channel. But what I wanted to talk about today is the fact that in the legislature last session, they did something that hardly ever happens, which is they took regulations for the Care4Kids program that have existed since 1997 and just tossed them out the window and told OEC to start over again. That happens like once in a blue moon. And so in October and November, OEC is going to hold a series of listening sessions around the state to get input from people about what they would like to see changed with Care4Kids. There are a few things that are set in federal law because some of the money for Care4Kids comes from the federal government. And we can't change those things. We can only use the federal money to subsidize care for families up to 85% of state median income. But a lot of the rest of this, the rules that have gone with Care4Kids, are open to change. And when you think about the program where only 40% of the families who apply for Care4Kids get accepted, and when they come up for renewal, half of them drop off, it says to me that there are some issues with the program that we might want to fix. So I want to ask all of you to think about what are the pain points with Care4Kids? Who are some of the parents who you know who've had trouble getting on to Care4Kids? And how do we get those stories exposed at the listening sessions? So think about those issues. Think about what you'd like to see changed in Care4Kids to make it easier for families to apply and get Care4Kids. Think about what you'd like to see changed in the way that they pay you. And let's make sure that when OEC announces those listening sessions, that we get lots of people out to them so that they're hearing the message loud and clear that we need to fix this program. And I'm happy to take any questions about that.
I would say that folks today, because we don't have, because it's a little bit looser of a format, if you want to raise your hand, I will call on people if you want to speak your questions. Otherwise, you're certainly welcome to use the Q&A. And this is something that we will talk about today. This is more a time for asking questions about process, I think, but certainly, we could be open to talking about more than that. So go ahead and jump in if you'd like to. Meryl, what are some things, while we're waiting on that, what are some areas that you could imagine being the most important to change? Sometimes,
Sure,
you're right, sometimes it's hard to imagine what the possibilities are when you're used to just living in something normal. And so, yes, I can see that Edie has her hand up, so we'll turn to her in just a second. But, what are just some examples of things that people might be considering?
Well, Maryland just instituted presumptive eligibility. They do a simple screening to get enough certainty that that they think these people are 90% likely to get a Care4Kids certificate. And then they give them a 2-month certificate within 72 hours. And in order to keep that certificate for a whole year, you've got to get all your paperwork submitted. But it means that families can start care when they need to start care, not wait for several months. And in New Mexico, they have adopted a cost of quality system where they're paying providers based on what it actually costs to provide quality care. Many other states have been much more permissive about what things qualify as work. Many states say looking for work is work. Many states say, going to college counts as, a work activity, or finishing high school. So there are a bunch of things that we could easily change in this if we put our mind to it.
Great, thank you. Edie, you're welcome to join in.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
So one of the things that we're finding, and they get on Care4Kids initially, but when the renewal comes, I have a lot of parents who own their own business, like a hair braiding business or a salon, and they don't take payment because they're trying to pay all their bills. So they're not making minimum wage. And so they're being denied Care4Kids because they can't prove they're making minimum wage. And in the state of Connecticut, if you own your own business, lots of people, even if you're wealthy, don't claim money onto, because they try to pay all their bills with their business. So I'm having a lot of parents who, when they go for renewal, they can't get Care4Kids because they can't prove they're making minimum wage. And I think that's a concern.
That's a very, very valid concern to have, to be struggling to even get to pay yourself minimum wage and then get told you can't get childcare subsidy anymore seems pretty ridiculous.
Right. And initially they get it because my understanding from our person at Care4Kids is that they kind of give it to everybody right away. And then at renewal is when they have to prove that they're making a minimum wage, which is hard then for the parents because they don't understand that either.
Right. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Edie. And also let me let folks know that we will pass on any comments in the Q&A to the Office of Early Childhood today. So if they're, and actually Edie, maybe even just put that in so that it's kind of in the record that we'll send to them. So we'll let them know we talked about this today, that these were the concerns that folks brought up. And so if everyone who, is thinking, oh, I'm thinking about something, stick it in the Q&A as a statement or a question, if it's a question for us. And we can pass that along. Okay, Robin, you are up. Oh, sorry, was that? No, okay, good. Robin, you're up.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. What's frustrating for us, we are a child care center that serves parenting and parenting teens in New Haven. And if a family they get approved in say May or June and we're closed because we operate out of the New Haven Public School, if we're closed July and August, the family has to resubmit the application all over again. So they could get approved in May or June, or their certificate lasts 6 months before renewal, but then they need to refile again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, and I can see Meryl's taking notes. But also, Robin, please put that comment into the Q&A as well. I'm sure this is something that other folks are dealing with as well. Okay, let's see. Thank you so much, Robin. We have Maria Reyes up next. And we should be able to hear the translation back if you're in the English. So folks, this is the right time to join the English feed if you haven't done it yet.
Sí, buenos días. ¿Me oyen?
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Sí, mi nombre es. Ok, buenos días. Perdonen la bulla. Mi nombre es María Reyes y estoy hablando sobre el problema que tiene Care4Kids. Ahora mismo yo voy a ver cómo hacemos una lucha para defender nuestro negocio, nuestro trabajo, ya que somos proveedoras esenciales y todos nosotros debemos de luchar para nuestro bienestar. Care4Kids, lamentablemente, está certificando los niños especiales a un bajo costo. Tengo una madre que tiene un niño especial aquí y la están haciendo pagar más de $600 mensual. No están pagando lo justo. Y tenemos que luchar sobre cómo el salario de nosotras debe de estar nivelado con nuestro trabajo. Es importante que Care4Kids sea justo con nuestro pago y que el gobierno, la OIC, tenga los fondos necesarios para cubrir todos los gastos de los padres que lo necesitan porque cobran muy poco dinero y quieren ponerle un fee demasiado alto a los padres que no lo pueden pagar. Gracias, buenos días.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Maria. I can see some thumbs up going for that and for all of our speakers. I think this is great. I love it when we get to have time to hear from you guys, and the voices are really important. It's really nice. Lindsay, you're up.
Morning. I have had similar experiences to Robin. She said that sometimes things will go on and the parent will need to update some of their information. What I'm finding in my program, we're a large public school system, and Care4Kids requires the digital fingerprint. So even though we do fingerprint all of our staff and do background checks before they're hired, we have to take that additional step. Sometimes that takes time, sometimes it takes additional funding. So by the time we catch up with that, the parent has to resubmit. But I've been on the phone and called people at Care4Kids, and it seems like the person that's either declining it because they need new information, isn't talking to the person that's handling the account. And it's been really difficult to try and get families funding through the system. And some of it is just lack of communication, and then that additional step with the digital fingerprints.
Okay. Meryl, I wasn't sure. Did
Yeah,
you?
not-
Yeah, looks like you want to.
Not quite sure I'm understanding the digital fingerprints are for the staff.
Yes.
Is it because you couldn't hire staff because you were waiting for the digital fingerprints to come through, and then parents went someplace else or had to resubmit? Because I'm just trying to understand.
No, so when we hire staff in our school system, they're fingerprinted, but we don't do a digital fingerprint. So then we have to meet the requirements of Care4Kids, they have to go and get an additional set of fingerprints. So we're pretty much caught up now, but we had a lot of problems last year trying to get our paras and our teachers to get the digital fingerprinting done so that they met that requirement, even though they had been fingerprinted by the district upon hire.
Yeah.
It was an additional set of fingerprints that they needed to get done because we don't do that digitally upon hire here in our district.
Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right. So is there, this is also a question of like, can you get a school system to do it a different way? Maybe not. They're hiring a lot of folks, but that might be easier for smaller programs is my guess.
Yeah, I've tried to see what we can do to make that a part of our hiring process, and we're just so large that I don't think, and I think even the machine to do it, if we were to get it to be in our district, in our human resource offices, I think there's like a 6-month wait list to even attempt to try and get that machine to have it within the system.
Got it. All right, thank you. Okay, Raina, go ahead. You are up. Raina, it looks like you are muted. If you want to join in. Okay, let's give that one a wait. Raina, you're welcome to chat me when you're ready to jump in. We're going to turn now to Shannon.
Hi.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. I have what everyone else is saying resonates true with me as well. The fact that Care4Kids has their own standards above and beyond what the Office of Early Childhood requires is it baffles me. I feel like they should definitely respect and follow the requirements put in place by the Office of Early Childhood. And understand that it's not necessary to require to go above and beyond. But the issue that I have repeatedly is that documents that are sent over are lost nearly 100% of the time. Not the entire document, but maybe one page of the document, or the last page, or a middle page, and I have tried to upload things on their computer system, and it worked for me for a little while and then did not. So now I just wind up faxing everything so that I have a record that it was sent and received, and still there's no accountability. Like, I love our liaison. If I could name him Hector, he is amazing. But he's not the one receiving that fax. It seems like it goes through a series of other individuals who have no accountability for what happens with this paperwork. And I'm just so confused as to how it is lost every single time I send something over. And then that sets us back to square one. So now, I have families who we didn't get funding for months because paperwork just kept getting lost. And I had one family this past year who all the paperwork went through, and I said, oh my God, I can't even believe it. So excited. But no, when they had to turn in the PPA, lost, so they're just, that would be a huge change if some kind of system could be put into place for more effective receipt of the documents. That's it. I'm sure other people will cover
Yeah,
others.
There's people in the chat seconding you already. So
yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of people who are
If I'm
agreeing.
the only one, that would speak volumes. So I'm glad it's misery loves company. I'm sorry other people are dealing with that, but it's it can't just be us.
And a lot of people love Hector.
Yeah.
All right, Hector's the star of the show today. Okay. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thank you.
So there's a lot in the Q&A, and I want to, we have a couple of hands raised. I can see that Tashiana, you'll go next, but let me get to a couple of these Q&As first. So question from Mary Beth, if only 40% are accepted to Care4Kids, why do they need a wait list? Why is a wait list implemented?
Well, so they have a wait list. They typically try and operate Care4Kids so that if they've got 200 people coming up for redetermination this month, they pretty much know that half of them are going to drop off. And so that means that they need 100 coming into the program. And if only 40% of the people who apply get in, they can take about 250, 260 people off the wait list and run them through their qualification process, knowing that only 40% of them are going to get qualified. So they've got 100 to fill in the people who left. That's how they operate it. And the wait list lets them throttle that by saying, oh, well, this month we've got, 400 people coming off Care for Kids, so we can take 1,000 people off the wait list and go through them. Or this month, we need to bring the numbers down, so we're going to take a smaller group off the wait list. The reason we have a wait list is we don't have enough money to pay for all the families who need care. But obviously, this issue of lost paperwork, the asking people to submit a second time, all of those sorts of things make it harder for people to get on. One of the other things I didn't mention was that in some states, they use your eligibility for other programs like SNAP or housing benefits as proof of your income, and therefore you don't have to go through all of the same proving it again.
There's actually a number of comments here to have more training for SNAP connected with Care4Kids, that if you have SNAP, you can have less paperwork. So a number of folks are suggesting that. And let me just tell you, if you all see me dismissing your comments in the Q&A, it's just to kind of move them out of the queue. They'll still all be sent into the Office for Early Childhood. Yeah. Sorry, Meryl, did you have more there?
Nope, that's it for that one.
Yep. Great. All right, Tashiana, you're up. Let me make sure you can speak here. All right. You're welcome to join us, Tashiana.
Okay, good morning, everyone. What I find is that when you upload all your documents to Care for Kids, they tell you call them within 2 days. Within 2 days, you call them. What it is, it's like a virtual, because I have it happen so many times to me that I have to ask questions. It's like it upload into space, for example, right? So they have to then go in there and manually pull it out and assign it to each worker. I know they have new people that they hire, and they don't have the proper training and know how to do it. So you yourself as a provider have to sit there and after the 2 days of uploading, whether it's fax, mail, email, whatever way you send it, call them and let them look into whatever space that is in and let them pull it from there. Sometimes what they do, they attach it to another child, because I have that happen to me numerous times. If you have more than 6 children, they would attach that file to that other child paperwork. Or if you upload 2 or 3 parent-provider agreement, they cross-match it with one another. So the thing I find at work is by calling and keep calling and have record, get the name of the person you speak with. Ask them to know that you called, right? If I have a liaison that I don't even know who her name is, but Hector, I wanted to get Hector, but since I'm in Waterbury, I can't get him. I heard how amazing he is on the paperwork, but that's what you guys will have to do, and it will help a lot of the problem that you guys are facing.
Sounds like we need to get Hector training folks. Get Hector training people. All right. Thank you so much, Tashiana. Okay, let's see. Lot of hearts and comments in the chat here. Let's get back to the Q&A. When is OEC going to let family daycare providers and staff be able to qualify for the quality wage incentive? Right now, it is only for group home and centers.
So compensation for family child care providers is covered by the union contract. And so if it's going to change, it needs to be incorporated into the next union contract. So you should be talking to your union reps, union leaders about asking for that in the next contract.
Thank you. Is there a way for families who have special needs children or children with autism? Can these families be put on a higher income bracket to qualify? Because I'm seeing them be denied for, let's see, over 1%. I'm not totally understanding that, Njasha. Can you write back? You got it, Meryl?
I think I know what it, if a family is even 1% above the 60% of it, so if they're at 61% of SMI, the income is too high for getting onto Care for Kids initially.
Understood. Okay.
And so I should just also mention to you, if you have parents who are students, college students, who want to get Care for Kids, they're going to find that they are very low on the list of priorities. But if they get a part-time job and they apply for Care for Kids during their part-time job time, they can get on to Care for Kids. And then once they start classes, they could expand to go from like a half-time certificate to a full-time certificate. Because changing it once you're already in the system is easier than getting on for one of those non-priority work activities. Like you can be a student in Connecticut, but you get put in the lowest priority list to come off the wait list.
Cheryl's asking, can you spend a little more time going over the grant or money, the centers that you were just talking about? No? Okay.
I'm trying to understand the
with
question a little bit more.
Cheryl, right back again and give us a little more detail. We were talking about the union contract, QWI.
Okay. The
Thank
quality workforce enhancement. Yeah.
Can you just describe who that is for then?
So quality workforce enhancement was something for the state funded programs initially, and I'm not entirely sure where it finally ended up. Maybe one of you can help me. But it was to provide incentives for staff who got degrees. And they were like one-time incentives, not annual, as I recall. But somebody who's running a center who's had the experience of getting those could probably help.
Great. If there's someone here who wants to describe that for us, you're welcome to raise your hand to help us out with that. And then Elsa, I'm going to give you the mic.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. The system kicked me out.
No problem, Sandra. If you could just go on mute. I think Ava is all set to do interpretation now, and then we can swap you back in.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, you should be all set, Elsa, if you want to come off mute and share your concerns. And if not, let's go to Beth and we'll see if Elsa can configure. Well, we have two raised hands. There we go. Beth, you're welcome to join.
Hi, I'm not Beth, but I'm Alice. I'm the assistant director. But we're together. The question I have is, I wish Care for Kids would investigate the families a little bit more. In my experience, there are many people who receive Care for Kids who are not truthful on their application as far as income, with a significant other perhaps living in the household. And I've had other families not get it because they need it, because they are truthful. I don't know what to do about that, but I know this has occurred several times in my center.
So you're concerned about fraud in the system?
Yes, exactly, as well, because I do have families who really are single parents who are struggling and they don't qualify. And then I've had other parents in the past who I know a significant other is living with them and they have double income, but it's just not on the application.
Right, understood. And then that extends the wait list for folks who may qualify if they were more truthful. Yeah, I understand your point. And also, wouldn't it be nice if we could expand those income guidelines so that more families who, I mean, we all know childcare is so expensive, hardly anyone can afford it. And also, let's bump it up so we can pay you guys more. That's a whole nother rant. So anyway, thank you so much. Wait, I'm sorry, who was it? It was Beth, and who else was there?
Alice.
Alice. Okay, thank you so much, Beth and Alice. Appreciate that. Okay, Elsa, if you are available, you're welcome to unmute and let us know what you're thinking. We'll just give her a minute. I'm not sure about that one. Sometimes folks accidentally raise their hand. Can someone please tell me that they are hearing the Spanish side? I see Maria may have had an issue with it. Just give me a thumbs up or something, because Ava is interpreting right now. Okay, okay, Elsa that was an accident, that's okay. That happens often. Okay, any other hand raises? We'll move on in a minute. So last call for hand raise, and let's go back to the Q&A. We've got a lot here too. Someone asking about feedback on the 2-year-old ratio change. That's actually something that we were also thinking we needed to talk about, but I think we're going to hold off on that today and maybe save it for another week. Meryl, is that comfortable for you?
I will say it is this week on tomorrow, I think, that the Regs Review Committee is meeting.
Okay.
So I will stick into the chat a link to the list of Regs Review Committee members. And if you want to shoot them an email to let them know what you think about this before the meeting tomorrow, that would probably be a good thing to do.
Great. Do you, let's see, we could shift to that actually. Do you want to spend a few minutes? We can shift.
I was going to say, we still have some more questions here. Do you want to finish those?
Yeah, we want to get through those. Okay. Some of these are comments. The time frame for redetermination is ridiculous. I also have the problem often when people ask for proof of identity for children or parents after they've been receiving Care4Kids. Getting parents to understand why they need to do that, I think, is difficult. Just a whole host of issues there. A class for parents approved might be helpful so that parents have an easier time navigating this system. I think that's a good suggestion. Another comment that compensation should match the new age guidelines. For example, a toddler with a fall birthday who's in a toddler class as a 3-year-old in the winter and spring, summer needs to be compensated at the toddler rate as they have the toddler ratio. And that makes sense to me as well. So moving them up to the pre-K level as soon as they turn 3 isn't always best practice and is setting the parents up for expectation that their child will go to kindergarten with their class when that may not be the case. Okay, this is a good question. Does OEC ever get back to us with answers? The comment is they don't always get back to the rest of us. So we do pass these all on to Office of Early Childhood. We don't actually ask them to get back to us. We pass on hundreds of comments. And so asking for responses on all of those, I don't think would be possible, nor would we get it. Meryl, but I think you could probably speak to communications you have with them around this stuff. I'll turn it to you to answer that.
When there's something important that we need to get an answer from them about, we'll ask, and if it's sometimes depending on how busy they are, we may have to ask a couple times, but usually we get a response to things. But I'm not asking about every Care4Kids application. I'm asking about bigger policy issues.
Right. So they're very responsive to us, but the things we ask about are definitely not in the weeds, like the folks you guys are, they're the stuff that you guys are asking about. But we do pass everything on, and theoretically all of your questions, comments, go to them and help them to shape the work that they're doing. That's what we've been told. And I think that this is a very cumbersome system. So we just have to believe them. And they have, for the most part, they are communicative with us on the bigger picture stuff. Do you know what is happening with DCF payments? I've not gotten paid since April. Meryl, that's one we haven't talked about in a while. But
we haven't talked about that in a while. If you have not gotten paid in that long, there's an issue. DCF was essentially moving everything over to Care4Kids. So I would send an email to Commissioner Bai and talk to your Care4Kids liaison about it. Like, what's happened to that payment? This was a DCF kid. We should be getting paid for them.
Mary Beth is saying she's got 3 siblings whose mother was just laid off and who is having a hard time finding another job. She does use Care4Kids certificates. In 2 weeks, she's going to lose those 3 kids if the mother doesn't get another job. And she's already losing 6 to free preschool. So this might be a little off topic, but this is just speaking to the struggles of a center when all of these systems aren't really working as they should. Thank you so much for that comment.
I shared the link to the list of the regs review committee. If somebody could click on it and make sure that you can actually access it, that would be helpful. If you can't, let me know in the chat.
Okay, let's see. We'll just take a couple more here and then we'll swap. Oh, and Maggie says in the chat, she's listening in, and the comments that you share with here and with Maggie will be shared with Commissioner Bai and other OEC staff. Meryl, folks are saying they cannot access it. It needs
Okay, I'll go
permission.
Somebody's trying to call me here.
All right. Final comment here. We ask families if they already have a case with Care4Kids, but there's no way for us to verify that with Care4Kids. They will not speak with us about a family unless we submitted a PPA with them. But if a parent's case was discontinued before coming to our center and they still think it's active, it causes delays in the processing and issues with payment. If we knew ahead of time that the case was discontinued, we could submit the appropriate documents. So this is just like circular communication problems. Thank you for letting us know about that, Eric. Minnie says both families and providers who rely on Care4Kids subsidy are becoming increasingly frustrated due to long wait times and lack of transparency in the process of renewing benefits. That is, I think, the right place to end this segment. So yes, a lot of comments. I love this. I love hearing from you all on this. We will take everything that went in before this time, and we'll send it off to OEC on the Care4Kids regs changes topic. So Meryl, do you want to swap over to giving a few minutes to the ratio change and have a similar setup but topic swap? Is that
Sure.
I think that would be a fine, this would be a fine time. Maybe you could just spend 3 minutes going over the change so that folks know what we're talking about.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, OEC started the process of trying to change regulations, and it's been long and tedious to update the center-based regs. One of those changes is to change the ratio for children who are between 24 and 36, well, actually 24 and 2 years and 8 months, so 32 months, to allow a 5-to-1 ratio. That whole set of regulations, of which that's one piece, is up for review before the legislature's Regs Review Committee. And they meet this week. I think it's the 24th, but I will just take a quick look and see. And that committee is the one that approves regulations. If they will have something like 60 days to approve it. They frequently come back with changes as far as how they want to deal with things. A change, so it is September 24th. Tomorrow is the day. It will be at 11 o'clock at the Legislative Office Building, and it will be on the Regs Review Committee's YouTube page, so you could watch it online if you want to. I will find that link and stick the link to the meeting Zoom in the, I'll put that in the chat. Is that enough background?
I think so. Okay, so if folks have comments that they want to give, same thing, please raise your hand and I can give you access to speaking. And then you're also welcome to put information in the Q&A. So I think this is on this topic, but I get a little confused, you guys. Meryl's the one who knows about this. I'm the one who runs the board. So why can family homes have a 1-to-9 ratio, including infants and toddlers, but centers can't combine age groups at the end of the day unless they have a 1-to-4 ratio?
Because that's what the regulations say.
Right. So this would be another
it's kind of a,
comment.
That's what the regulations say, and the Regs Review Committee could change that tomorrow.
Got it. Tashiana, did you have your hand up? If you did, put it back and I'll call on you. John says there are also significant changes to head teacher requirements in the regulations for before and after school
Wait
programs.
just a second.
This is very much needed for these programs. John, if you want to raise your hand and give us a little more detail, that is not quite enough. So go ahead, and why don't you go over that? John,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now. Great.
Okay. So currently the head teacher requirements for before and after school programs are very strict. So basically, if you have a public school teacher who, worked as a public school teacher for 30 years and then they retire, they do not qualify to be a head teacher in a before or after school. So there are changes in the regulations that will make it a lot easier to find these head teachers. Currently, I think we have over 20 classrooms closed for before and after school because we cannot find qualified head teachers. So this would definitely alleviate that problem.
Got it. All right. Thanks so much, John. Tashiana, you are welcome to join.
Okay, I know a lot of family childcare providers want the 9-to-1 ratio. And just be advised that this increase is not for family childcare providers. If you providers do fire drill, you will understand how hard it is to get 6 or 3 little ones out. You have to grab the emergency, grab everything. I know it's about safety when they're thinking about 9-to-1 ratio. I know during the pandemic, they was allowing us to do it, right? But Commissioner Best Buy allow us to have 9 children with a substitute. And that's what the our union contract, and we was fighting for doing it, right? But now that you guys want it, why don't you guys try with the 6 kids or the 9 kids that you currently have before and after the fire drill and see its safety. And that's their concern with us when it comes on to allowing us to have 9 children. They're thinking about safety, 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 safety. And that's what it is. Okay, so I would love to have 9 kids, but when I do my fire drill, it's so hard to have 6 little ones to grab their emergency bag, grab the contact information as if it's a real fire, and you have to get them out, and that's why it's not going to happen.
So Tashiana, what you're saying is that the change in a family setting would be different than in a center where you might have more staff. Is that
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. In a center or in a family group home, they will have more staff in there, right? So if there's a fire, there's more people there to get them out. But me with only 9 children and no one else is there to help me, the fire could go. Then to have those kids, it's gonna have a chaotic moment. So I need you guys to actually do your fire drill, and you will understand the safety what Commissioner Best Buy is trying to look at. The safety of getting these children out safely. We hear too many horror stories of children getting hurt, and that's our main concern. It's about getting these children to safety if there's an emergency.
Got it. Yeah, and the ratio change wouldn't mean that you had to go beyond your comfort level either, I would imagine. But I think your point is well taken. Thank you so much. And I can see that someone is asking for a link to the regs review committee. Kim, we will when Meryl gets back, I'll ask him if he has that. And somebody also responding to Tashiana saying that, it sort of depends on the situation. One person, what's hard for one person might be easier for another. And it probably depends on the setup of the space. It probably depends on whether there's some, stairs or what kind of door. I mean, right, there's so many variables. So good point, but also always keeping the safety first is a good thing to do. Okay, let me check Q&A here. The 2 questions that we have left, I think, are Meryl questions, and I believe he had to step away for 1 second. Ava, are you there? Oh, wait. I am here. Meryl, 2 questions for you. One is the meeting tomorrow only for centers and group homes, and 2, do you have a link to the Regs Review Committee meeting. Wait, you're muted.
Yes, it is only for centers and group homes. And I'm going to drop the link in right now.
Great. And someone's asking what the current ratio is for home childcare.
6 plus 9.
6 plus 3, yeah.
Oh, 6 plus 3 makes 9. Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you. Okay, I think, let's see, last call on questions or hand raises on this topic. Feel like I'm running a meeting. Okay, seeing none. Seeing none, we're going to move on to our next topic. Thank you all so much for that. We will pass all of that information on also to the Office of Early Childhood. But, you know, yes, pay attention to any opportunity for you to be directly talking with lawmakers and influencers on this. It's an important thing to do. The final thing that I wanted to talk about was we've got some really interesting topics coming up in the next month or two. We're going to have the Secretary of State on to talk about early voting. We've got LISC on to talk about surveys. We've got a whole bunch of things coming up. But as always, we're now 4.5 years into these calls. And our top priority is always making sure that we're bringing you the information that is most relevant to you at any moment. And also giving you the opportunity to give feedback. Today was awesome. I love these feedback days. And you know, and also we're trying to maintain and build a community here. So I would love to hear from anyone who has topics for future calls that would be really important to you. You know, what are things that you need to know about? Maybe we've missed something that we should have paid attention to. How can we make sure we're getting the topics to everybody as quickly as possible? So if anybody has any ideas that they want to see here on a Monday morning call, you can put it in the chat, or you can put it, don't do the Q&A, because that stuff's all going to go to Office of Early Childhood. But the chat would be a great place, or you could raise your hand. And people might not have any ideas. Maybe that means we're doing it right. But I always want to hear from you folks if that's possible. Marilyn, Ava, while we're waiting on that, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I will just put in one more plug. The topic of Care4Kids regulations got a lot of people talking about the issues they have with Care4Kids. Those arguments are most powerful when they're delivered by somebody who was affected by the problem. So you've been affected by the problem in that you told the family, yeah, you're going to have to pay full fare because Care4Kids isn't paying. But hearing from parents who have had trouble with Care4Kids, or who had months when Care4Kids didn't pay while they reapplied, contacting those parents and getting those parents sort of queued up for when OEC does their listening session would be helpful. We want to get as many people coming to those listening sessions and telling their issues with Care4Kids firsthand as possible. And as soon as we have the schedule of when those things are happening, we'll get them out to you all.
I'm seeing that folks are putting some ideas in the chat. Thank you so much. One question from Tammy was, how can this community get ideas to us? And the answer is we have an email is probably the easiest, but it's info@earlycareconnection.org. That is the best way. And you can always give us topic ideas anytime, year round. You can always give us feedback. Anything that you think we should know to make this better, we want to hear it. And it goes to all three of us. And we'll definitely, use any information that you give us. So I'll put that into the chat in just a minute. And earlycareconnection.org is also where you can sign up to be on this call, register to be on the call. It's where you can get past recordings. We have a YouTube. It's YouTube at Early Care Connection. So that's a great place to subscribe so that you get the videos as soon as they're posted. And we do always put the link to the chat the link to the Spanish audio file so folks can listen in Spanish. Okay, Anne, are you wanting to join?
You're muted if.
You're welcome to talk if you do. It may be that your hand is raised accidentally.
While we wait for Ann, I wanted just to say the comment that people might not see this, you know, they might, because it's a webinar, they might not see that every single Monday we consistently have about, you know, 230, 250 people. And depending on the topic, we might even have 700 people. If you're Rosa DeLaurel, you get 1,000, you're bringing Zoom. But I want to highlight that because this call is a place where a multitude of providers, early educators have an opportunity to come in, say whatever you want. You know, we're not here to hold you back on your comments, right? I really do hope that anyone who jumps on these calls feels like it's a safe space to speak freely, uncensored, and really can share their thoughts while being in, like Izzy said, in community, because of the early care, dare I say, be no pun intended, the early care connection that you all have here. We have providers who are unionized. On this call, we have providers who are center-based. We have providers who are group homes. We have staff. We have owner-operators. We have advocates who, you know, really push a lot of work, policy work for childcare educators. And without these calls and these opportunities to really come together, it's very hard in our day-to-day. Izzy, Meryl, my own role in our separate jobs, the roles that we have with the other organizations, to feel like we really have a pulse on what's happening. And you guys allow our work to be better and stronger and more fruitful on your behalf.
Yeah, absolutely. And any power that this group does have, it has because we have a ton of people here, all speaking with one voice. I mean, we are individuals here, and everyone you can hear has different perspectives. But nonetheless, this group comes together every week to say, we want better for this system. And that's what gives us power. So, you know, you guys showing up is the thing. That's the magic. So, okay, I believe the people with raised hands are not able to speak at this time. Lovely. You'll be the last one this morning. We'll let you have the final word here.
All right, good morning. Yes, I was just going to emphasize on someone mentioned earlier with the Care4Kids children. Hey, sorry. How sometimes, you know, the parent, she know that they're living together, but I was just gonna say sometimes the parent is not living with the other child. I'm sorry, let me do that over because I had one that got frustrated with her Magnetal. I was just saying that there's sometimes you'll see the mom or the dad pick up the child, and that's not the parent that filled out for the Care4Kids, but they really don't live with the parent, but they do help the parent go get the child from school or bring them to school. So I don't think in that case it's not fraud. I do believe that sometimes we need to open up our eyes a little wider and know that, you know, there are cases where the parents actually does not live together, and they do. One of them apply for Care4Kids. The applying parent lives with the child and the other one doesn't.
Right. No, your point is great. And I mean, I think this is why fraud is so hard to deal with in so many of these cases, because families are complicated and people are sometimes coming and going and moving in and moving out, and it looks like one thing, but it's another. And, you know, my mom picked my kids up from childcare all the time and doesn't live with me, but I do help support her in some ways, and she helps support me. And right, this stuff gets very complicated very quick.
Very true.
And so I think your point is a good one, not to make assumptions, and also to push the state to do the job that is needed to make sure that we can get that wait list as small as possible and serving, you know, families who need it the most, the quickest. And so, you know, both of those things are important, and there's probably a very hard and healthy balance to getting to that point. Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, good. Thank you so much, Lovely. All right. I think that's it for today. We've gone the full
I have
hour.
one more comment.
Go ahead,
one more quick comment that I forgot to mention when I was making another comment. I got a question from a provider last week about the time of these calls. And the provider was telling me that she was talking to a group of other providers who were vocalizing their frustration for not being able to always come on these calls. And my answer to her, my answer to anyone who's listening, either now or later, is we understand that, as you know, especially for the owner operators, the skilled workforce, right, the childcare providers who are on here, this might not be the most convenient time for you. We understand that. We will say that when we started these calls, it was COVID, and a lot of providers who would jump on had a lot more flexibility, and some unfortunately were closed down. You know, hence why we started at this time of day, right? Why 9:30? Those are the roots of why we did 9:30, why we selected 9:30. We also noticed by sticking to the 9:30, we have a better chance of getting state employees and getting OEC commissioners, elected officials on this call, that this time works well for them. Our goal is to make sure that we're servicing you, we're providing resources to this community. And we've been doing this call so long now that switching the time would be very drastic. So, you know, we want to support this community. We want to be true to this community. We provide the recordings. We make sure that we give providers ample opportunity to chime in, add their questions. But if at any point you feel like you just don't really have a grasp and you want to participate, please email us. I will do, and Izzy and Meryl and I, the three of us will do our best to make sure that we give you the topics beforehand. And if you know you can't make a call, email us with the questions that you want us to ask in live time so that you're still playing a role actively during the live call. So just wanted to add that.
Great, thank you. Meryl? No, I thought you had something else. All set. Okay. Let me look at, I'm just gonna look at real quick for next week. I'm not sure about the topic for next week. I want to give it to you guys if we have it, but actually I think I put my notes wrong. So as usual, we'll get to you on email, ECE listserv, and through Zoom, through the Zoom reminders. Thank you, everyone. We had a good group of people here today, some really, really healthy voices, and really interesting. I love hearing from you all. This community is fantastic. So thank you for your participation. Thank you for your comments. And as always, you can email us at that info@earlycareconnection.org with more ideas. Keep them coming, and we will see you all next week. Thank you so much.